So you want to learn how to play Sigma? Well, make sure you watch the entire video to be sure you don't miss anything. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Sigma is a mid-range tank with a heavy focus on damage over mobility. He is the best tank for mid-range skirmishes with his ability to hit heavy damaging orbs into clumps of enemies. His shield and kinetic grasp allow him to mitigate thousands of damage per game, and his accretion and hyperspheres provide an insane burst potential from those out of position enemies. Sigma is really a jack of all trades but master of none. He has the potential to be played in a multitude of comps such as Deathball or Bunker, but he can really struggle when Dive is being played on either team. Okay, so now I'm going to go over some important damage number and timings for Sigma, and then I'll go into some general tips. Sigma's primary fire does 55 damage per orb, for a 110 damage burst. This, along with his accretion rock, which does 70 damage, can produce a 180 damage burst onto any target, which can prove lethal to most supports and DPS characters. This damage combo can be made a one-shot of any target that is below 200 HP if you are close enough to include a melee, which this combo will force enemies to keep their ground from you. His playstyle is very balanced. You need to play him reserved at a distance away from the frontline threats, yet you need to be aggressive and pressure the enemy team with your abilities. This versatility is why he can be run in any tank line in ranked games, as he has the aggressive tools to attack into defensive setups, and also has the defensive tools to help anchor his team to an objective. His ult can be used to crack a well-disciplined defensive hold, or used to halt an aggressive attack. This versatility in the ult makes it extremely strong, and it can single-handedly win teamfights. But you do need to be careful when using it to not get stunned, as it is one of the longest cast times, meaning that enemies have ample opportunity to land a stun on you, cancelling your ult and swinging things back in the favour of the other team. Since we're on the topic of stuns, let's talk about Sigma's accretion. This ability is one of the most important aspects when playing Sigma. It is similar to Roadhog's hook in the fact that it is scarier the longer that it isn't used. It demands the respect of enemies, as any misplay or misstep can spell demise for them. This means that you shouldn't use the ability just to spam or to burn a shield. It should be used to stun a target for focus fire, use to peel for teammates, use within duels, or use to cancel game-winning ults. Now that we've discussed Sigma's more offensive abilities, let's cover his two defensive options, his experimental barrier and kinetic grasp. Let's start with his experimental barrier. It has 900 health, and when activated, the barrier will travel in a straight line till the ability button is let go of. This provides great versatility to shut out certain players from teamfights. Since this shield has only 900 health, it is the weakest barrier for any team to play around, and should only be used to catch abilities or ults, and provide cover within duels. His kinetic grasp is his other way to mitigate damage, and be great at saving Sigma's life. Kinetic Grasp is very similar to D.Va's defense matrix, except it can't really peel for a teammate, and is best used to absorb frontline damage when recharging shields. Also remember that 40% of damage absorbed will be returned as temporary shield once it is over. It is also very important to remember that this ability can be cancelled, and if it does get cancelled, you will not receive the shield. Okay, now that we have discussed all the essential information about Sigma's kit and playstyle, I think it's time to share some tips. The largest tip and biggest brain move I can teach you guys is when chasing down a team who is getting healed from a support who is far away from you, you should put your shield between them. This will block healing to the target and allow you to focus them down. This is by far one of the biggest plays you can make for Sigma, as it fully zones out healing to the target you want to kill. The second tip that will probably tilt DPS players out of their mind is that when they are alone or on the flank, to just sort of put their shield in their face. Alone, they can't really break it fast enough and will instead have to move around the shield to get angles, in which you can just replace it in their face. This is most impactful towards snipers, as they have significantly less damage, and it will help protect essential sightlines, keeping your team alive. The third tip is to take off angles and to spam your hyperspheres into the enemy team. This will achieve one of three things, all of which are beneficial to your team. 1. You get a pick and your team pushes through and wins a fight. 2. They chase you, leaving the front line weaker, which allows your team to push through and win the fight. Or third, They ignore you and you farm ult and win that way. So, whenever it is safe, don't be afraid to use your defensive abilities to be on an off angle to spam large chunks of damage into the enemies, as you will almost always benefit from it. The final general tip is to take duels whenever you can. Sigma is one of the best duelists due to his personal shield and stun, which allow him to effectively eliminate anyone except some tanks who take him on in 1v1 combat. So make sure to use this to your advantage and force confrontations in which you have the advantage, as by winning these you put your team in winning scenarios. Anyway, thank you for anyone who stuck around this long. I hope you learned something or have come out a better player. If you enjoyed the video, why not like and subscribe? Anyway, till next, see you then.
My phone lights up, but it's never you. I can't help but feel so lonely. I know there's things that I can't undo. I'm falling apart so slowly.